everyone, and happy International Women's Day. Today I have 𝑤𝑜𝑟𝑒 joining me for a conversation to celebrate International Women's Day. She is an alumni from Indonesia who completed an MSc in Children and Youth Studies. And after her studies, she worked as a social worker for a couple of years, and now she's back in Ireland working for a company called 𝑤𝑜𝑟𝑒 and is a community safety analyst. So welcome 𝑤𝑜𝑟𝑒, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi Katie, thank you so much for having me, and happy International Women's Day to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I just have a couple of questions for you today. So I guess we'll kind of go through some of them. So I suppose the first one is, what does International Women's Day mean to you?
International Women's Day to me means it's a celebration for women's achievement in many aspects and fields, I suppose, such as social and culture and politics and business. And so it's the day, for me, the International Women's Day is the day to kind of like mark down that women actually indeed have choices. They can choose to go on a higher education, they can choose to go and travel, and they can choose to have a career, they can choose to have a family, and then even they can choose to have both family and career. It's just a very important day to kind of like raise awareness about women's rights as well, and to raise awareness about how important that woman involvement in leadership, in business, and even in politics. And it's woman is not only about an object that main role is to be stay at home and then care for family or raise children, but beyond that, women is actually have a lot of opportunities that they can explore. So this International Women's Day is kind of like marking the day that we are actually have choices and we are powerful enough to go on our dreams and then to pursue our goals, to be what we want to be, and without being judged by the society, and just to kind of like involve in making this world a better place for the next generation.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I completely agree with all of that. Brilliant answer. Thank you. And I suppose just going back to what you studied with your master's, I suppose, how does children and youth studies, do you think, make a difference for women?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting topic. It's like once my parents as well like asking me, what are you going to do with children and youth? That it's just going to be like, once you're married and have children, you don't have to go in college to understand children and youth. It's like, no, actually, like after I went to my degree and first in UCD, we learn a lot about the child development, and I find out that that degree can actually lead us to be part of the policy maker. Like for example, like for the child protection, and then I know that there's some countries in Asia that not kind of like fully understand what is the importance of having the law for child protection, because they just probably lack of knowledge and information about how is the situation this world for children and for youth. So I think the children and youth studies is really helpful for women, not only for kind of like a practical benefit, like it's like we got knowledge if we want to be involved in the government, to be a stakeholder and policy maker to help children have a safer place and then have a stronger law, and so they can kind of like speak freely, or they can choose what they want to do when they go into college as well. And then it helps us to understand every stage of child's development. And if we want to make this world a better place for children, it's another way that we need to understand kind of like the issue, the problems and the crisis that currently faced by the youth generation. So we will be able to kind of like make a better comprehension about what we're going to do next. What is the government next move to make sure that children and youth have their best place to grow. And as a practical benefit for women or even men who decided to have family and have children, we have like knowledge and understanding on how to raise children based on their interests, and how to listen more to children, and how to give children and youth more space to speak, not only to be heard, but also to express their opinions, their ideas, you know. So for me, the children and youth studies, it's kind of like a huge field, especially when you want to work in a children's sector, or want to contribute to help children and youth raise their full potential. So that's kind of like my opinion. And I feel that as well, because like when I work in Indonesia, I work as a social worker for children. I worked in the Ministry of Social Affairs, and like my field is the Department for Children. So like we respond to cases and to kind of like children's issue in Indonesia, and it might really helps a lot to understand how to respond to certain cases, how to make a better policy, so we can help them, you know. So yeah, that's very beneficial, and then it's a broad concept and broad field for me.
Yeah, it just shows, I guess, how important education in society is, and being kind of informed about, you know, different areas or different topics as well. Yeah, no, completely. I completely agree. Yeah. And then earlier you spoke about leadership in your first answer there. So I suppose, do you think that we need more women in leadership?
Oh, this is a very, very easy answer. That is yes.
I think we'd all agree.
Like I even so, like now we know that there's more women have like higher education, like more women involved in a politics and business and education, but we have to admit that we still lack of women in leadership. And because like I came from a patriarchal society, like from my own experience, women still being limited on their movement. They think that woman is when they kind of like make decision or when they judge, it's based on their feelings rather than their logic. And so like we still live in a society that believe men is better to be in the leadership. Not to kind of like mention that comparing which one is better to be a leader, but I would say is we need more opportunities to be given to women to be a leader. And as we know that yes, we sometimes make decisions with our field, but it's not kind of like a bad move. Like for example, like I believe that in leadership we need a sense of touch of sensitivity. Like that's mostly like women have. And then I've seen a lot of women leaders, such as like the New Zealand Prime Minister and then the Finland Prime Minister as well. They're young and then they're women, but they can make their better judgment. They can. We live in the society where we tend to grow into ignorance. While I believe that when women involve more in leadership, we can give a little bit sensitivity. And to be mentioned sensitivity, it's not always being sensitive is weak. Sensitive can be like a strong point. Like we can understand more what is the situation, what is the current crisis, how to respond on certain problems. And I believe that women growing in education as well, we have to give them more space to be involved in leadership as well. So that's when we can call it equality. And you know, like equality is not always about we allow women to have career, but also give opportunity for women to be in a managerial board, to be involved in a policy making. You know, so I completely agree that women is pretty much needed in leadership.
Yeah, no, I think we'd all agree, you know, that having more women in leadership roles, you know, is, I suppose, is the way forward. And I think even in our office, in our global office, I'm so fortunate and thankful to have such strong female leadership in our office. So, you know, it kind of, it allows you to kind of look forward and say, you know, and see yourself in those positions as well, you know, in your career or wherever you're going to end up in life. You know, so yeah, I would completely agree with you there too. So then, so I suppose then talking about women in leadership and I suppose women's society, is there anyone for you, and it doesn't, I guess, necessarily have to be a woman, but is there anyone for you that has inspired you, I guess, in life?
Oh, there's many. Like, I have to say that, to be honest, like, inspirational figure for me is always changed based on what current stage that I am in, you know, like in life stage. But for now, like, I have two figures that inspired me a lot. Like, the first one is never changed since I was a child. It's kind of like a religious figure. It's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I never met him, but because like he was lived back then in centuries ago. But I follow his teaching, and I found out that he's actually a very high like focus in women's rights. Like he back then in Saudi Arabia, women were slave, and then women just kind of like seen as an object, and then he freed women, and then he fought for women's right, allow women to be involved in government, to be involved even in a war if they want to be a knight, or you know, like to go on military board, and to be given that woman is actually have their own rights, and then highly respected. And also currently, like the one person that I really inspired a lot is my partner's mother. She's here in Ireland, and she's just amazing woman for me. Like, she's a widow with 4 children. When my partner is her eldest, and then she raised 3 boys and 1 girl with on her own without any financial support from a husband. And then until now, like, she managed to send off her children to college, and then help them to be kind of like reach their potential only on her own, being a woman. And with 4 children living in Carlo is kind of like a little bit, probably not like Dublin, when people are still kind of like, you know, like, oh, she's just a widow, like, and she's not kind of like having the best opportunity. But she proved it wrong, and she raised her children, and now, like, in her 50s, she are actually returning to college to finish, like, to just try something different. So, like, for me, like, she's just very powerful woman. I always go to her every time I need a piece of advice, because, like, I know that her life experience is just a lot to make her a very wise woman, and she's the exact figure for me as a strong and powerful woman in modern era. So she's just kind of like my inspirational figure for me.
Yeah, no, fantastic. There's two great people there. I suppose, and different examples, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the professor you mentioned first, maybe a little bit more academic kind of, and then your partner's mother. Yeah, like, what a strong woman, you know, to have gone through all of that on her own. So yeah, no, amazing. And then I suppose just the last question then is, I guess, tying it a little bit back to your studies again, so children and youth studies, what advice would you give to young people nowadays, maybe even young women nowadays?
I always want to say to the youth, the young people, and then to women in general as well, like, not to be afraid to try something new if that is what they want, because I believe that to become a better person is to make mistakes and learn from it. So, like, if you really want to go, especially for my young fellow from Indonesia, if you really want to go abroad and then to study something really new, and then find that, like, explore this world, don't be afraid of the judgment from the society. Because at the end, whatever we do, the society will always judge. Just focus on achieving your goals, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. As long as you learn from your mistakes, that is what you need, because like if you're avoiding mistake, you will never learn. So for the young people, and with all of the facility, you know, like the growing technology, you have all of the tools that you need to explore, to grow. So take benefit of it and explore and make mistakes and learn from it. So that's pretty much what I want to say.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Yeah, and as you say about the mistakes, yeah, you'll never learn to, I guess, to pick yourself back up if you don't fall every now and
then.
Yeah,
exactly.
So,
correct.
So yeah, I think that's some brilliant advice to give to the youth today. So yeah, no. Is there anything else, I guess, you'd like to add add to the conversation, or?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm so happy to become like I'm a proud alumni of UCD, like, to be honest. And so far, leaving Indonesia for Ireland to study master in UCD has kind of like one of my best decisions in my life. Like, I'm a woman and I came from a very traditional and patriarchal society, but luckily my parents did always support education. And then when I say to them I want to continue my master, when most of my friends decided to get married, and my parents just like, yeah, definitely go for it. And I was like, I'm the only one from my village that's probably not married yet now I'm 28. But I don't really care at the time, because like I have the parents that support me. And I think that is the best decision. I just kind of like thinking, if I never take it, it was scary to like leave out Indonesia and then move to a whole different country, different culture, different tradition, different language. But it is what I needed back then to be what I am right now. So yeah, that's kind of like the things I want to share as well.
Yeah, don't be afraid to take a leap, you know. You never know where you'll end up in life.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, and as I said, and now you're back in Ireland, and you're living here again, and yeah, as you said, you're making Ireland your second home. So that, yeah, it's incredible to hear, and we're so grateful to have you as an alum as well. So thank you again so much.
Thank you
for joining the conversation today.
A pleasure.
Yeah, so brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.